everybody. Welcome to Spirit Coffee Talk. My name is Lisa Richmond. I'm joined by the beautiful Elyse and Ginette. Come on here every Friday. We are the intuitive mediums, channelers, light workers, whatever you want to call it, from Avalon Spirit. And so today we were kind of chit-chatting about what's kind of going on right now. And some of the themes that continue to come up with us is the idea of like 5D Earth, fifth dimensional frequency, and the shifting between 3D and 5D. And I don't know, like if you're watching this, chances are you've probably heard that term, but I know that there's a lot of varying degrees of information that come out about this. And I'm not here to say that one perspective is right and one perspective is absolutely wrong. It's what resonates with you and in which capacity you choose to incorporate your energy and your energy field in. And chasing somebody else's idea to try and make it resonate is definitely one thing that's going to make it more difficult. So it's important to be really discerning, using your discernment about ideas and concepts such as this, such as, fifth dimensional or 5D Earth and ascension and, connecting with light beings and, like it's beautiful information, but there is a purpose for people to bring out different perspectives so that we can align and kind of like use our discernment and learn different perspectives and see what actually resonates. And therefore, when you find that resonation, you can confidently go forward with that perspective and with that belief and with that heart space, which is essentially fifth dimensional frequency in its own, right? The definition has to be individualized to the person who is resonating with it. That's the whole thing, is there is no right and wrong. That's more like 3D, right? So without trying to overcomplicate it, but trying to simplify at the same time, we're here to try to debunk or help understand, or even just like using terminology that might resonate with some people or break through some barriers. We're going to talk about 5D Earth today. So, how's it going?
That was a really good intro. It's
It
like
was.
bang on. There it is. It's all there. Um, so one thing that you said, how like trying it on, I think that is such a great thing to encourage everyone. And my guides have always done that with me. They're like, explore all the written content on the planet, explore. And I mean, that's like internet, that's like follow tangents for reasons, because you pick up your pieces of truth in there. And then they're like, to really simplify it, they showed me this a while back. They're like, just imagine like when you go shopping and you try on a whole bunch of different outfits to see which ones align with you, right? Something might look great, but you're like, nah, it doesn't feel right. You try them on to see what feels right.
That's
And
right.
that's the same thing with 5D, of like, what pieces of truth are valid for you? What direction of focus is valid for you? Are you more in a focus of like rebellion and truth seeking? Are you in a focus of creating sacred space? Are you wanting to create community initiatives? Like, all of them have a place in it, but you can really choose
Totally.
which one is right for you, because everyone's is different. And so I
At the
definitely,
time.
and it can morph and change, but I definitely encourage the trying out all the different angles. And an example of that is I had someone reach out to me a little while back and ask about the concept of free will. And she had mentioned how she heard that free will wasn't a thing according to this one person, but wondered if free will is really a thing. Is it only destiny, or is there free will? And so we had this really neat conversation. And I said, I can only share with you what I've understood from my NDE, from my guides, but it's about what resonates for you. And she's like, yeah, I really like to take on all angles and spend a little bit of time in every angle to really get the perspectives available to me for me to make a decision. And I was like, how cool that you are so conscious in doing that process. And I think, again, to echo what you were saying, Lisa, I really think that's what 5D energy is about. And that 5D consciousness is realizing there are many truths to a story. Everyone's perspective is different. We can all see the same thing, look at the same flower, but we see it from different perspectives and notice different things.
And
And so
it's
I think there's
absolutely imperative that that's the case.
yeah,
Because by saying like we're going in the direction of 5D Earth, we're not saying that we want everybody to be the same and reacting the same and having the same spiritual practice.
because that would
You
be
know,
hive mentality, right?
that's
It's
right.
not about
That's
hive
right. And
mentality.
that's not the ascension process. The ascension process essentially is connecting to your own divine authenticity, breaking out of the boundaries and the barriers of the having it to be a certain way. It's really allowing yourself to have that like porous energy to be able to give and receive freely without the like stagnant judgment or the firm like there is absolutely no other. And if you hear that there's absolutely no other way, I would be skeptical of that, because that is saying like do not use your own discernment and do not feel into your own intuition about whether something really lands with you or not,
Mhm.
truthfully. And what they're saying right now is, and I've heard this before, is like if there is something that you're pretty hard on being like, I would never, ever
Those are
listen to
dangerous
this,
words.
right? Those are
Dangerous
super dangerous words,
words.
because that means that's an area in which you're going to explore.
Mhm.
Even if it's just to learn a couple things, even if it's just to learn perspective, or saying, I had absolutely no idea that this actually happened behind the scene, and this is what drove that, kind of changes my perspective, because the more tidbits you can add to the sack of knowledge, the easier it is for you to be confident in your authenticity, because you have as many pieces as possible. And then that way, when something does come up that is out of alignment, it's way easier to see that. And
Mhm.
essentially, that is fifth dimensional frequency, is being able to have that fluid motion of energetic input and output, opening up your heart space to be able to like put away the harsh judgments. And by doing that, you are living that freedom piece, that authentic piece, that open-hearted exploration piece, and how that looks to whomever, like that can be played out in infinite different ways, but that's the purpose. That's the point. So if you're really searching for the answer, that's almost like your indication to kind of take a step back and then realign with you with this, so that that's the answer. That's the flashlight that you can turn on to help see the way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
How about you, Elise? How's been your journey about like discovering the perception of fifth dimensional frequency and 5D Earth?
Yeah. So for me, and I know I kind of always take this lens, we all do, of I really love the blending of the science of things, the spirit of things, the human experience, the spiritual experience, the mind, body, spirit, like all of those multifaceted aspects of our existence. And so for me, whenever I hear someone speaking kind of what both of you were saying in absolutes or black and whites, immediately I'm like, I don't know. My brain really used to love black and white. Still, sometimes it does. It likes to know yes or no, you know, right or wrong, this or that. And for a lot of us with, a very dominant linear brain, which a lot of people have, right? We've really been conditioned to experience that. You can really rub up against that when you're evolving, when you're growing, when you're dipping your toes into the, conscious evolution pool. And so I think there's a real desire for us to be like, okay, this person is saying that this is the truth. And so, yes. And so we're just like, we fall into the pool and we're like, great. And then, and I definitely experienced that. And then over time, the more you evolve, inherently, the more you become connected to yourself in different ways and through your body and through your spirit. And you're able to, Lisa, what you were saying, feel into like what aligns with like how does this feel? When I hear this thing, am I contracting? Or am I like inhaling and expanding? And that's how it feels for me, right? It can look different for everybody. And so when I start to when I started to experience those things that were very much in contrast with truths that people were sharing, I'm like,
Mhm.
this feels really confusing to my brain. Over time, where I've come to is I don't believe black and white exists. I just don't. Because I feel like whether you're talking about science, whether you're talking about spirituality, the infiniteness of this experience is like insane, right? That it's infinite. And so when we start to put black and white parameters around what is absolute truth, I think that becomes a bit of it becomes an issue, because it's like we're cutting off the possibility of infinite possibilities.
That's
And
right.
and
I
that's just
agree.
like when people are like, don't manifest on this and do this and I'm like, maybe there's like general guidelines, sure, but like if I'm really feeling like today is the day I need to manifest, honor that, right?
Mm.
If, I was watching this TikTok of a girl who was talking about people who won the Nobel Peace Prize for proving quantum entanglement, which is like basically talking about nothing is real until it's perceived. That's it's so much more than that, but I don't even have
No,
the full grasp on it.
that's a really, really great way of putting it into cohesive language.
Yeah. And she posted another video about how people were like losing their minds in her comment section. And on that video, and it's like, this was a Nobel Peace Prize winning piece of research and information. And it rubbed up against what a lot of us believe and what we know to be true. And there's a lot of debate between the different kind of physics communities around what is truth, right? And from what I've read, we always go back to this question of like, the more you follow the breadcrumb, the further it goes back to, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right. What we can prove with facts is out there. There's pieces that disagree. There's pieces that align. We can't say it's black or white. We don't know. And so I saw this one comment and I kind of went down a little research rabbit hole that at one point in time, the person who invented washing our hands, I don't remember his name, he was a surgeon, and he was like, hey, we should start washing our hands before we're like sticking our hands in people's bodies and doing surgery on them. He was like outcast.
Yeah.
He was outcast from his career for the belief, because it disagreed with the current belief system and science at the time. So prime example of like what we know to be true right now can be science, can be proven, we can feel it, we can have that wisdom from our guides. I can know for truth that this was what was channeled through me and told to me. And that might not be a universal truth. It probably
With
isn't,
what
because
we have available to us right
exactly.
now.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And
for
that's
me, it's
ever
like,
changing.
yeah, for me, the mindset that I try to hold is like, it's infinite. And anybody that is claiming it's not, I listen to with my lens of discernment and pull through pieces that feel aligned and pieces that
100%.
don't.
Mhm.
100%.
I see it kind of like a rainbow. And like every color of the rainbow is there, and each color vibrates in its own frequency.
Yeah.
And some people can better see certain colors than others. It doesn't mean they're not there. Right. And so there is always this infinite amount of things that are still available. And then,
Yeah.
if we apply that even just to regular 3D physics, there are many things that are possible and understood in our 3D reality based on 3D physics. But as our consciousness increases, we move beyond the parameters of known 3D
Yeah.
physics into higher dimensional possibilities, such as telekinesis or levitation or telepathy, or even mediumship, right?
Astral
What is
traveling. Yeah.
mediumship? Mediumship is increasing your own personal frequency into that of something beyond 3D realm, which then allows things to be visible.
Yep.
Right. And I think there's enough mediums in the world and enough people have had stories to understand that there is something going on. I
Yeah.
mean, we can all attest to it, but still.
Yeah.
And so it's like Elyse, you said, it is infinite and it is ever evolving and growing. And I think coming back to something you said, Lisa, in the beginning, 5D really is about this fluid nature of being.
Mhm.
It is not rigid. 5D is not a rigid thing. It's this stepping into an awareness of all things are possible.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I really do.
Totally.
I think that's a beautiful
The
thing.
interconnectedness of all things as well. So the things that you resist the most are the things
Yeah.
to look at, because we all are connected. We all are connected.
Yeah.
We're also individualized yet completely connected, number one. Number two, with that, what they keep saying is focusing more on how you want to feel and how it feels to embody something, and the embodiment versus conceptualizing. Okay. So I'm not saying logistics and conceptualizing something is wrong, like cut it out of your life. I'm saying that it's important while we move further into that frequency is to understand the concept of embodiment and feeling into something. So when somebody says feeling into that, you know, Elyse, you said for you, it feels very expansive, right? Like all of a sudden your energy is expanding. And if something doesn't resonate within your authentic vibration, it feels very constricting. That's a very good way to really understand embodiment of something. You're embodying your authentic energy, and it naturally will connect and align with like frequencies. And so if you're working at increasing your frequency into a higher vibrational perspective or being or resonation, then you will continue to align with the frequencies that are of similar vibrations. That is law, right? And so if you are open to the fluidity of things and being able to embody something and really, how are they saying it? Like, instead of when you say taking out your blinders, it's not like, I want this person, I want this location. That really eliminates so much potentiality, infinite potentiality, really, when you're pinpointing your like micromanaging spirit, which really cuts you back from being able to have that openness. So if you actually go into the embodiment of something and pull forward in your perception of how you want to feel, how something makes you feel in that expansiveness. For me, it's so much freedom, the perception of freedom. I open up my senses to be able to receive this frequency of, interconnectedness, of wholeheartedness, in the play out of energy exchange between myself, animals, children, love, land, growing food, and then that energy of feeling that expansiveness of knowing that I'm doing the thing that aligns with my values, my highest consciousness. And that's what I put out on a regular basis. So then when you're actually living within that frequency, that is what attracts that. And so the more that your openness to be able to connect with the authentic vibration of self is what really attracts you in that fluid motion to that higher vibration. And that is fifth dimensional frequency. There's no borders. There's no right or wrongs. There's no, you know what I mean? Does this make sense? Did that
Totally.
make sense?
Yeah, totally did.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
I'm gonna gentle plug as well. If you need help with embodiment, come talk to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
fundamentals of somatic work, right? Is,
Yes.
my connection with my discernment, especially in the banana town world that we're living in, has changed a lot because of that work.
I can totally echo that for you hugely. Like
I
the
used to have
amount,
such fear.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
So
And
intense.
you're
Like, and it would
so solid now.
rip. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Somatics, I gotta say,
I'm obsessed with
is
it.
so valuable in so many ways. It just like, even if we bring it back to the idea that Spirit was saying 2024 is a year that our bodies really turn on, like they get online, they are turning on in an entirely new way. We are really starting to get in touch with the sentience of our physical body, not just the body as a vehicle, because I think often we think the body is the vehicle that carries our soul. The body is also a sentient part. It is a mind, a spirit, and a body.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the sentience of the body is sometimes when somebody is ready to die and they have no more brainwave capacity, their spirit is ready, but their body is not giving up. That's the sentience of the body that's not ready to go yet. There is an alive nature in the body. And so with ourselves getting more connected into the sentient nature of the body, the more we do somatics and get into our body's energies and communicate with the body and start to see it as less of just a vehicle, but as a storehouse of information and knowledge and experience and trauma and all of that,
Well,
we
yeah,
really bring ourselves into that 5D by activating mind, spirit, and body.
body. Because look at how much the body will communicate with you. You know, whether it's goosebumps or whether you get chills down your spine or whether you instantly feel like nauseous about something, your body is in constant communication. It is a very, and I love that. And like you look at like motherhood. I mean, like when your body naturally knows what the heck to do to keep another human, like it has so much knowledge. It's so much
Mhm.
not, it is communicating with you and others on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 7 times the amount of interoceptive receptors, so the ability to feel internal happenings, than we do external. So like the external
Oh.
being your perception outwards, we have 7 times the amount of internal interoceptive capability. We've just been taught to turn it off.
That's right.
Mhm.
From baby on,
Yeah.
we have.
Don't cry, don't cry. You're okay. You're
Don't cry.
okay. You're
No,
okay.
yeah. Shh.
Yeah. Are you
Or
hungry?
no,
Just eat.
this is what you eat at this time
Yeah.
because the food guide says so. Right? When like
Mhm.
I get that babies aren't gonna like crawl to the cupboard. Like we have to keep them alive. I get that. But like we keep them alive by the body's natural like timing, right? We nurse, you know, like all of that.
Mhm.
But then when we are growing into it, when a child says, I'm hungry, no, it's not time to eat. That's shutting down their internal like guidance system and saying,
Mhm.
follow the rules.
Mhm.
I get that there's like a thing about systems and routines that help dynamics. Like I get that, right?
Mhm.
But I love the idea of just like trusting that our body really knows what it needs.
Mhm.
We're
Totally.
seeing the emergence of that in so many things. And to be clear, we're not saying it's anybody's fault, right? These are multiple generations of people that they were taught and they were taught and they were
Yeah,
taught and they were taught. So it's like,
100%.
I'm not blaming anyone who might have said, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry to me. It's
Mhm.
just that that's what they were taught. And then they were taught that by somebody that they loved. And then that person, and it goes back so many generations as we've unlearned more and more and more. And, we see this in the idea of intuitive eating. And we see this in, our even just like, it's interesting, they're saying like cueing the word intuitive, right? It's as we're evolving consciously, everything starts to become more intuitive, including our connection with our body. There's a lot of people that I talk to, and it's like, we'll talk about like, what it feels like as a yes in your body. And it's like, I don't know. And
Mm,
it's like, it's just like a muscle, right? We just have to build the
that's right.
muscle, the brain connections. It's, if you're saying like, I don't feel that stuff, it's not because you can't. It's just because those parts of your brain wirings have just been, the volume's been turned down.
Yeah. And if you don't use it, it's not going to be one to stand up and be like fully firing, ready to go. You got to coax it back into, the vibe of like trust and like, if I say this too, if trust is a big thing, to go back long enough to see where the original generally is when we are taught not to trust our internal guidance system, right?
Mhm.
Because if we don't trust our little voice inside of it, or we say like, when I said this or tried this or did this, that was like, it was a hard no. It was rejected. So I guess my little voice inside isn't right. I guess I
Mhm.
can't, like, for safety, I'm just gonna put a pin in that and like she gone because I don't want like that felt awful.
Yeah.
Right. And then going back in order to like reconnect that relationship with that aspect of self and saying, okay, I get where you put this away because it was for safety reasons, but I'm really curious to see what you have to say now because it's your turn. I need
Mhm.
to know what you need to say because you're my system. Like I'm telling you, this is internal family system work, but I think it's really important. I think this is about embodiment too, is like bringing that part of self forward and giving some trust. That's
Yeah.
where it kind of lies in. I don't know why that was to come forward, but that was obviously for somebody. Is that sometimes when it's that piece, it's like, how do I trust? How do I trust?
Mhm.
go back and see where the voice was hushed.
Mhm.
You know, for people that have a really sciencey mind, and like this is kind of hard sometimes to take in, a little story of trusting the body here. So my daughter, well, Brie, loves to eat carbs and fats. Okay. And as a mom, I'm like, Brie, you need to make sure you're getting enough protein. And did you have some protein today? And have you had water? And da da da. And she's like, I just don't like protein as much. I just really like carbs and I like nuts and I like this and this, right? And I was like, okay, well, let's check your DNA. So we were looking at her DNA the other day, and like my DNA loves lots of protein. My body does really well on a lot of protein. So does my son. We look at Bree's DNA. She thrives on carbs and fats and a little bit of protein. Right. And so here I am as a parent thinking, you need more protein, you need a well-balanced da da da. And then we're like, let's look more closely at your DNA. And sure enough, she is already intuitively eating
Totally.
the way in which her body needs to be fed, right? She has a little bit of protein, she's good with that. And then carbs, fats, vegetables, and all this stuff. But like, it was so neat to see. And so I really love that because I was like, you know what, Brie, you were right. I'm like, we need to pick the good carbs though, not the cookies, right? But
I love cookies
like,
though. Like,
oh,
don't
they're
you
so
love
good,
cookies?
right? Oh, I
Fresh
love
baked.
cookies.
Ugh.
Mm.
Anyways, so it was just neat. So there is validity to that. And we had
Totally.
this neat little experience just the other day. So yeah, something
I
to keep
love
in mind.
that.
Mhm.
And trust the cycles of things too, right?
Totally. My DNA says I love protein. My brain for a long time said I hate protein. And it wasn't until health pieces came up that all of a sudden I was like, I need protein. And I like started to want it again. So that's
Yeah.
a great point, Lisa.
Yeah.
I have one question before we close for both of you. Shifting the focus a little bit, because we've really been talking about like us as a collective, our human experience, our spiritual experience. What do you feel the 5D world looks like for the earth, like Gaia herself?
Like only the planet, not the people?
Or like in connection to. They've been bugging me to say, ask the question. So I'm not sure if.
I love this. I've thought a lot about this actually. Oof, how do I simplify my perspective answer here? Because like I do lean a lot into the like quantum field right now because that's where my guidance is taking me. And so a lot of my responses is about individual perspective, right? Like what we are perceiving in our own projection. And that's going to vary. And that's what we talked about is leaning into what yours is and creating what it is based on like your internal system. I think that will naturally occur within the individual. They'll be naturally guided to places on earth that hold those different frequencies that align with them. And so I think naturally when somebody's in a location, let's say, that is super doesn't align with them, it can have multiple different reasons why it's aligned. But like anything else, I think it's going to become more evident that there's going to be certain locations and certain places that hold a frequency that is reflected back to the individual that sees that or holds that. And I think Mother Earth is shaken up and moving up in order for her to vibrate at a higher frequency and to naturally cleanse her aura as well. And that within those shakeups, there's going to be a release of different densities and higher vibrations. And I think it's going to be us as individuals that align with that, grow with that, and use that energy all as one, yet have multiple different experiences of it. So one person can live in a location and be connected to a location or a part of Mother Earth and totally take from it in the frequency that they're aligned with, where another, like that plastic page that goes over the atlas, is on the exact same spot experiencing something completely different based on their frequency and vibrational whatever. But I think Mother Earth is doing a bit of a shakeup for sure, not a bit, a massive shakeup, really, and changing direction. And her filtration system is going to filtering out a lot of the old densities. But in saying that, there will be pockets in which have condensed energy like that, in which people will align with or not align with. And I think that's going to move and shake a little bit too. Like things are going to look a little bit different based on your perception. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
What about you, G?
I think to kind of like carrying on with what you're saying, what I've been getting a lot lately is the energy of Mother Earth is really coming alive yet again, even more. And so from what my guides have shown is that like Mother Earth has been holding a beautiful frequency, like this 5D frequency, waiting for humans to catch up. And there are many that do, and there are those that don't. And there is healing that's going on, but of course she is moving and shaking. I do see though lately, especially in like the last couple weeks, there has been this bigger blast, or like this, not even a blast, but it's like an amplitude has increased of this light frequency coming from the earth. And so
From
there's an
internalized, not from the sun.
from the earth up, and it is getting more and more powerful and brighter and brighter and brighter. And we are going to be opening to even more consciousness that comes from the earth in the form of golden light consciousness that we've been talking about, that has been stored within the earth and within the trees. And this is going to be more and more available to people to create a more harmonious like shift into 5D frequency. And so I think that is already happening for some people in many ways and will continue to. So I think 5D is also coming from within and up.
Yeah, and seeing so many people's experience about like Earth not being just this place, like that you just like this, like it being alive and so connected with everything, and how like I had such an incredible experience seeing that, seeing the actual life force energy and the interconnectedness of all things on Earth, myself included, and all beings, that all of a sudden the perspective of me versus that, like the separateness of Earth and us and humanity is definitely like the fifth dimensional is like coming into this knowing of this whole cohesiveness and interconnectedness. Whereas you see the people who are so disconnected from it, is that more like density, like you see that disconnect where it's not, and again, like not to try to like, I don't want to say like so far of a disconnect of us versus them, 5D versus 3D, because that's not really fifth dimensional. Like I said at the beginning, it is that overlay that like all things are possible simultaneously, depending on your perspective. But it is an awakening to understanding that interconnectedness of all things, which is so beautiful. You gain so much wisdom that way,
Yeah. How about you, Elyse?
Yeah, I would echo everything you both said. And I think through that process, we deepen, just as we deepen our connection with ourselves, with our guides, with our bodies. We're all made up of the same things as the earth itself. And through that, we deepen the connection with that. We hear the whispers of her, just as we hear them of our body, of spirit. And that's how things shift. I know there's a lot of like fear around the earth, and rightfully so, right? There's some intense stuff happening. And I think, the more I see some people, one person in particular in the spiritual community who always posts about like 5D earth solutions, right? When there's like new cool things that people invent, that people come out with that are so supportive, that are made from the earth to support the earth, right?
Oh yeah.
That sort of like, I just think we'll see more and more of that, the more we become connected with the energies that you're both talking about.
Yes. And that's what, like, it's going to be very evident when things resonate with that frequency versus when something comes up and be like, no, it doesn't really resonate anymore. Like different aspects of consumerism or products where you're like, oh, I just feel ick. Like, and naturally connected to more of the sustainability or products that are being made and with a give and take energy of Mother Earth. Not, you know what I mean? Like you can just feel it now.
Yeah.
Very cool. I loved this conversation, ladies, and I
too.
think it's very timely. And I think people are really going to sink their teeth into this because there's a lot of different tidbits from this that pose lots more further questions, but also internal exploration and again, what resonates. So I hope that this reaches everybody that it needs to. And if you see this and think that, oh, hey, I just had this conversation or somebody was just asking, please share it. And any questions that you may have pertaining to this particular situation or subject or anything else within this realm, please feel free to leave it in the comments section, because we do check and respond all the time. So thank you again for everybody tuning in, and it is our pleasure, and I know that we enjoy coming on here and just chatting with each other, but also sharing this with everyone. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See you later.